Hello, everyone.
Hello, dear all. Welcome to the second day of the unique webinar that deals with Annotation. Bonjour tout le monde. First of all, I would like to thank French Institute in Serbia and Teatroskop that actually organized this webinar for us, and especially Catherine Podry from French Institute in Serbia. So for the second day, we will have 1 hour will be devoted to presentation of kinetography, movement notation, its main principles, including some readings and practical exercise. I just want to remind you that for the all question, use the tab for the questions, and you can follow the chat tab if you have any problems that actually dealing our assistants, Tanya Gavrilovic from Teatroskop and Jelena Ilic from the Belgrade Dance Institute. At the end, after presentation, you will have access to the presentation recorded by the French Institute that's available online, slideshow in the PowerPoint presentation and PDF format. And we also invite you to share your comments or questions, even after session, with the Belgrade Dance Institute or directly to Raphaël Cottin. I will send now Raphaël Cottin email in chat, and I am now calling Raphaël to start the second webinar session.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Bonjour à tous. Hello, everyone. Un salut particulier à mes collègues français. A special hello to my French colleague. So today we will have to deal with how kinetography itself works, and so how is organized the system that Laban invented in, published in 1928. So I need to share my screen like this, and here we go. I think it will work. Yes. So just to remind 3 different areas that we were talking about yesterday, the 3 main areas that Laban developed during his life. First of all, we talked about choreotics, who deals with space harmony and the way we analyze the body in space, the relationships between our own space and the space around us. There were another subject, another big field called Bal-Laban eukinetics, more known today as effort, dealing with analysis of movement dynamic. And as I write here, I called it effort shape because there's 2 main fields balanced together called effort on one side and shape on the other side, but it's a little wider than this. At last, we have kinetography itself, who deals with movement notation. So I immediately begin with this area and trying to explain to you how simple it is in its rules and how simple I wish it will be to be read. So first, the general presentation of a score. You've got a vertical staff with 3 main lines, and after you will have different signs. The main signs are called direction signs that will be placed in the staff. So mainly, graphically, the system is made with a staff and sign in it. As you can see, the staff is not horizontal but vertical. That deals with the verticality of the human body. And you can see a similarity between the central line of the body and the central line of the staff. So there is a vertical reading, as you can see, from the bottom to the top, and a vertical line that remind us that we are vertical with a left side and a right side. Inside the main staff, we have different columns. Here you can see in pink one side and in yellow another side, and it divides the stuff in information dealing with the left side on the left part and on the right side on the right part of the stuff. So it's very similar to the situation of the human body itself. Then, depending on the place where the sign will be, you will know what part of the body will be concerned by this information. That means that every column is dedicated to a specific place in the body. The central line and the two first columns at the right side and at the left side dealt with the support of the weight. Usually, because we are human and we are standing up, it concerns the feet on the floor. But of course, when we walk on the knees, when we walk on hands and knees together, it will be on those columns to get the information of putting the weight on the floor. So two first columns means support. All the other columns deals with gesture. That means when there is no weight on the floor directly. So the second columns inside the main staff are dealing with the leg gesture. For instance, I can switch for a moment the size of the screen, sorry, here, yes. If I'm just walking, it will be on the center line. But if my leg is in the air, it's not a support, it's a gesture. So if it deals with a gesture, not supporting all the weight of the body, it will be columns. I hope it is clear enough. Outside of the staff, there will be two parts dedicated to what we call today upper body movement. Upper body movement means all the trunk and its part. So it could be the chest, it could be the waist, it could be all the trunk. Outside of those columns, the next one are dedicated to arm movement. So when you move your arms like this, and you can have extra, depending on how detailed you want to describe your movements. So you can have specific columns to indicate palm orientation or inclination or rotation of the head, movement of the eyes, movement of the mouth, for instance. Then, this part was for the staff itself. Now about the signs. The main signs of the system are direction signs. Direction signs always start with a rectangle, as you can see here in the center, and the rectangles, similar to the staff itself, remind us of our own verticality and of our relationship to gravity. That means that this direction sign means your place, where you are. The name of this direction is the place, place, in place. All the other signs that deals with direction are variations of this rectangle. I just show you images after images, how designed it is, and you will be see by yourself that it is very simple to understand which direction it is pointing out. here I draw just forward direction and backward direction. And as you can see, when you put this sign on a paper, when you read it like this, you will have the sign effectively pointing forward or pointing backwards up to you, up to the reader. So one important thing to keep in mind is that the reader is the one who moves. Who moves? Yeah, no, who moves? The direction for side left and side is just another variation from the rectangle into a triangle pointing to the right side or to the left side. So it's very easy to understand. And in between, you've got all what the human community called diagonal, which is not specifically diagonal, but it's in between direction, between forward and right, between forward and left, between left and backward, between backward and right. You will find those directions. The name of those directions are simply called by the two main directions that are the elements of the direction itself. So forward left, forward right, backward left, or backward right. When you know these signs, you know most of the system called kinetography or Laban notation. This is really the main part. We miss something in order to show the functional aspect of the movement. And Laban chose a motif, a color, to put into the sign in order to bring into it the level aspect of the direction. As you can see, there are three different levels. One with hashes called eye level, one with a dot inside called middle level, and one all black, which is low level. With the next graph, you will understand, I guess, how we can represent all the direction around a spot called the place, in order to indicate all the direction in a three-dimensional space. Here, from the center to any direction around the center. I just take a few time for you to watch the image and for me to drink. So now it's time for us to put the sign into the stuff and trying to understand how it works. So you can take your sheet of examples. If you don't have your examples in your hand, you will read the screen directly. So for this, I propose to switch again the size of the screen. So, up. Am I right? Up, like that. It's okay? Yes. So the first example, sorry, but I need to put it in widescreen again. You will see why. The first example is very similar to the second one. As you can see, they are the same signs, but one has not the same size. In each staff, you can see a double bar line here, double bar, and here a double bar. Before the double bar, it's called the starting position. That means that the time hasn't begun. So everything under the lines is called a position. After, it will be no more a position because it will be a movement in space and time at the same time. So after the double line, it deals with movement. I'm not going it too fast because I know that everything is new and I want you to keep time to maybe have some question or reflection on it. Now, what about the sign? Here, I draw your attention, I put your attention on the central columns who deal with support, the weight, and the two main signs here are the same in example 1 and example 2. It's in place. That means that I am where I am. Here, on the floor. After that, in order not to fly, I need to indicate that my weight is keeping on the floor, is still on the floor. That's why I put in red these two dots called body hold or pose, or also a retention sign. And retention sign indicates a maintenance of the weight on the floor. So I have nothing else to indicate because it's stop the weight where it is. Second, the other columns outside in pink. Before, in the starting position, it's indicating in place, but black. So I say place low. En place, niveau bas pour les Français. Place low. What means place low for the arms? I'm here with my arms or here or here or here or here. How to describe a direction for my arms going down? A direction is always calculated from the central articulation to the extremity of the body. When I say, and you can do it, when I say one arm sideways or the other arm sideways, you understand that your shoulders is connected to your hand, the central part and the extremity of your arm. So when I say right, you put your right hand side in relation to your shoulders. So this will be side middle. This will be side low. This will be side high, because my hand is on the side of my shoulder, but higher. So place low means my hand at the same place of my shoulder, but lower here. That means place low. But it's only a starting position, but because it's above the double lines, I haven't started yet. About the length of the sign. You can see in blue that the sign saying forward middle, it's more or less one count, if I divide my staff into 3, is 1/3 of the total amount of space in the staff. And the other one, in example 2, is 3 times longer than example 1. That means that it is the same movement, but the first one will be faster and the second one will be slower. We can read it now. So I can switch again the screen, sorry. I come back, here I am. The first example, I start here and I count 2 counts for nothing, then 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. In 1 count, I put my right arm forward middle, that means forward in the same level than my shoulders. In example 2, it's the same movement, but it will take me 3 times to do the same movement. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. I repeat it once more for you to practice. The first one, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. And the second example, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. So thanks to this, you have a little in mind how is organized the representation of time in the staff. The time deals with the length of the sign itself. I just watch the time. It's fine. So let's go to other examples, maybe more interesting. Just before dealing with time, you can choose, of course, a time scale in order to have a comparative way of knowing how fast it goes. So you can decide 1 centimeters equal 1 black note or 1 second, for examples. Then we will read together very simple examples. I choose always the same starting position. You can see from example 3 to example 9, all the starting position above the double bar are the same. So at each example, we stay with both feet, right and left, together in place on the floor. And we have both arms with these signs in black, called play slow here. So from example 3 again until example 9, I keep my feet together on the floor with my arm relaxed, placed down, play slow. So example 3, we can see first, we will read first. It will be easy to have example on the big screen. Then I will switch to do it with you. But we read a little bit examples before practicing it. As you can see, example 3 here in blue and example 4 are the same, but in example 3, the sign saying forward middle for the support column, so forward middle for the step, is on the right side. Example 4, the sign is symmetric, but it means the same. It's pointing toward forward, but it indicates forward for the left side of your body. So in example 3, I will do a step forward on my right leg, on example 4, I will do the same, a step forward, but on my left feet because it's written on the left side. I hope it is clear. And Alexander say yes, it's clear. So let's read these two examples, very simple. It's very, very simple, but we need all to begin with simplicity, then to add complexity. So example 3, I'm standing here, arm place low, and my two supports in place. First example, example 3, I step forward on my right feet. I hope that it's right because my camera is in mirror, so maybe I do it on the opposite side for you. The example 4 is the same, but on the other side of the body. So one example here, other example there. So now, if we move to example 5 and example 6, we can see also the same direction sign, but in the leg gesture column. That means that the movement will be done also by the leg, but not supporting the weight, the leg in the air. That means that I will keep, as you can see on example 5 and example 6, there is also a small dot like this, saying that in example 5, when am I doing the movement, my weight is still on the left side. On example 6, when I do the movement, my weight is still on the right side. You can see the dot. So now when I come back to example 5, I put my leg forward middle. What means forward middle in terms of gesture? It means my feet in the same level, middle, forward in relation to my ankle here, to my hips, sorry. So let's do example 5 and 6. Example 5, in place, arm place low. And in one count, I'm putting my right leg forward middle with my feet at the same level connected to my hinge. Example 6, the same with the other leg. And again, sorry if I miss the laterality in the same order because my camera is in mirror effects. So now let's come back to the example. Okay, again, 5 minutes, perfect, 5 or 10. Yes, maybe 10. So let's move to example 7. Example 7, it's the same meaning in terms of gesture movement, but in the column of the arm. So in example 7, I move my right arm forward middle. That means, as I saw in the example, it's the same than in example 1 and 2. That means my hand at the same level of my shoulder forward. So 1, forward, middle. If we move to example 8, then you can see 2 signs side by side, which means that both arms will move together at the same time. So that means when you will see sign side by side, it will mean that the movement is simultaneous. If you will see in other example signs one after the other, it will mean succession. So now in example 8, we move both arms together, forward, middle. 1. At last, example 9. Again, the same starting position, place middle, arm place low, and I am stepping forward, and at the same time, I put my arm forward, middle. There is a tricky thing in that example. I am doing a step forward, and at the same time, I am moving my arms. But before doing it, I hope that there is a dot here. So it means that my weight will be kept on the left side also. So if in academic term, I say that I start in 5th position, that means that after my step, I won't be on my left feet, I will be on both feet, because I have indicated here that my weight will be maintained on my left side, and at the same time, I will step forward with my right side. So I finish in 4th position. Let's read it. I'm starting the same starting position. Then I step forward and keep my weight here on my other legs. And at the same time, I move my both arms forward, middle. 1. Everything is happening at the same time. So if you are doing this again, I want you to be very focused, very conscious of how everything is moving together from the beginning until the end. Maybe once more. So we will have questions about those examples at the end, and we can switch to other examples to finish the session, because every detailed explanation about references, bibliography, etc., every additional comments on this will be done at the end on specific files. So I think it's more interesting for us to practice and read a little more. I think if you agree, Alexander, we can stop at 3:40 to have 25 minutes or 20 more or less of discussion. So again,
absolutely,
maybe 6 minutes more.
Absolutely. I just want to remind all of you guys to use the question tab for your question.
So it will be fast during this to explain things. So maybe it will be better for me to focus on one aspect, not to be too in too many different directions during this session. From example 10 to example 13, it's example dedicated to support, because you can see that every signs are written in the support column. In order to be more efficient in this session, we won't read this example now, but I want to just explain you a little thing important in terms of level. When you see a middle level in terms of support, I say stepping forward middle or standing up in place middle, that means in a normal level for the weight. And the normal level for the weight for the human body is to be stand up with normal flexibility of the legs. So when I step forward or backward, I'm doing it with more or less straight legs, like this. Simply, when I see eye level, it will mean that the weight is higher. When I see, like in example 10 or example 13, which mean low level, it will mean that the weight will be closer to the floor. So in terms of vocabulary, a low level could be named as plié, with bent knees. Just a few comments, because we won't read this. I prefer us to read the arm movement on the next examples, but just to switch once more here. When I stand on my both feet, I say place middle. If I say forward middle stepping, it would be that. I'm stepping forward middle. I'm stepping backward middle. If I say I'm stepping forward I put my legs on a relevé. If I'm stepping backward in a low level, I will need to bend my knees. So it will be a plié walk. Low level, high level. I think it was important for me to explain. Probably we will on this during the exchanges. So it's a short introduction to the levels in terms of support. Switch again, please pay attention to the other examples. So example 14. And now it will be simple and fun together. I want that everyone do it with me, please. I will read it with you at the same time. So not in different parts. Where am I? Am I here? Okay. So I hope that everyone got his sheet in his hand, because I minimize the screen. So when I take the example 14, it starts with my right arm, maybe left for you, but with one arm, going forward, left, middle, then place eye, then side middle, then place low again. In that example, I am reading all these parts. Forward right, place eye, side right middle, place low. Again once, forward right, I, right side, play slow. You will see that in the other part of the example, it's in the same direction, but in symmetry. So first, I move my right arm forward left, I, side, and low. Then the same in symmetric aspect with the other arms, crossing, rising, opening, and going down again. Maybe you notice that every sign is close to the other. There isn't any gap, any space between signs. In example 16, here we have gaps. We have spaces between signs. 14, there isn't any space between the signs. That means that the movement is really never stopping. So can we do it? We read the example 14 together in 8 counts. I give 2 counts for nothing. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. We have the succession in time that I spoke before. In example 5, you can see that the directions are the same, but the length is longer. The length is longer means that the time is slower. 2 counts for every direction. And as well as example 1, every sign is close to the next one. That means a continuity in the movements. I will never stop. You can see symmetricity in the design, so symmetricity in the movement. So we can read example 15 like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can quickly move 2 minutes more, 2 minutes for the 2 last examples. Example 16, we have shortened size, that means faster. Then we have space between sides, which means stop movement. But the direction, the time is different. It will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And just for the fun, if I read the example 17, now I can switch for the last time. Woohoo! When I switch and when I read example 17, it's a mix of different lengths. That means fast at the beginning, then slower, then fast, then slower. 2 counts for nothing. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Once more, last time, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this kind of example deals with phrasing, of course. So I think it's really time for us to stop because we won't have enough time to discuss. And I think it's more important to have your question and feedbacks than to have more detailed or more explanation or other things. So I prefer stopping here and recording and listening to your comments. Thank you very much. But don't forget after Alexander's speech that you can have all the other pictures of the slideshow online.
Thank you so much, Raphaël. So we can start now with the questions. Ambre Emori-Mayer asked, did you make the examples on Laban Writer? I wish there was a better universal program to use for writing. Did you use the Kinescribe?
Well, as I told yesterday, there are all, as I told yesterday, there is several software used to write Laban scores. One called Calaban during the 80s in France, created by Yvette Alagna, who were with us yesterday. Another very used in the Macintosh world called Laban Writer, the historical software of Laban notation. In Europe, most of the time, people are using Graph Laban for AutoCAD or application for Illustrator or Inkscape, which is a free software. And there is a project with a French programmer, Sébastien Courvoisier. I will put the links on this information after in order not to be too long, but I will give you the information about that.
When we are fresh with the examples, there is a question, example 3 and last example. What is the difference between indication of weight distribution? Because I saw correctly, the weight both time has been shown in between.
So, alors, yes, from Anastasia, yes.
Yes.
I saw correctly the weight both time has been shown in between. No, because in example 3 and example 9, if you take example 3, there is no dot on the left side. I come back to example 3 here. We have no dot on the left side. That means at the every weight is in a new place, but you have moved forward. So from there, I'm on both feet, but at the end, I will be only in one foot. I have stepped forward, but at the end, my weight is on 1 foot only, 1 foot only. On the contrary, on example 9, there is a dot. That means at the end, my weight is in between right and left leg. I guess I am clear.
Thank you, Raphaël. There is also one interesting question from Alison. If low level for weight is a plie, is there a way to notate floor work?
Yes, of course. It's not a way of writing floor work because every rules are the same. Floor works means just more support on the floor. So in that case, you will indicate part of the body because there is a specific sign to indicate specific area of the body. And you put those signs in the support column to indicate which body is supporting the weight connected to the other. So you can have different columns, 2 columns, for examples, head, hands and knees, or for back, or for stomach, whatever, to notate hip hop or flow works or yoga or whatever, but you analyze this weight indicating which part of the floor will be supporting the weight, and then you put this part in the support column. So you indicate in the support column, in the center line, but you add a specific sign to indicate the part of the body that is supporting the weight.
Question from Tjasa, I guess from Slovenia. How are efforts included in the system?
As I told yesterday, I quickly talk about a normal amount of energy to respond to a movement that has to be done. When a movement, of course, you will have a great amount of energy. You will have a greater effort to do if you stand like this and need to pump up, down, and up. It's difficult. The weight is not the same, so you need to distribute more energy. If you need to do it with a stronger energy, you will add specific signs that are called dynamic signs. But in terms of what we call the effort in the Laban way, it's another field. It's a relationship between space, timing, weight, but in a dynamic aspect. On the other hand, kinetography or Laban notation is really giving you what to do, and you need to practice to discover by yourself how to do it.
Okay, thank you. Question from Rosa. In your examples, the arms are always stretched. Is it also possible to notate bent arms?
Of course, there are specific signs that are called amplitude signs. To indicate the same direction, I can say forward middle here, and I can say forward middle, a little more flexed, a little more, a little more, a little more. I can show you. You have the same sign here. Side, middle. Everyone is seeing it. Side, middle for my arm. Side, middle with another sign inside. That means shorter. So I will not be here. I would be here. And last one, to be clear, because I won't describe any sign. This side middle with a double cross. So you can see the sign is the same. You just double the information. Once is bending, the other one is very bend. But you can have also dot here and there to indicate in between. In terms of amplitude and flexibility, we have 6 levels of flexibility to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Equal for the legs. And you can also have longer, but you can flex more, but you can't extend many more. So from the normal situation, you can say longer or even longer, but not more, because after my shoulder need to move. So without moving, you can have stretch legs or stretch neck, for instance, like this. Hello. I'm from Thomas, or short neck. It's the same idea. So you just add specific amplitude sign inside the direction sign.
Okay, there is one question from yesterday from Raphaël. Is it possible to analyze the human sounds as a result of movement? Was Laban interested in this research?
This sound is produced with a biggest amount of energy. If I just touch, it doesn't make any sound. I can do it like this. If I want to produce sound, I need to do it harder, stronger. So in that case, we will use dynamic sign to say strong and light, for instance. Strong, very strong. And it will make noise, but we don't indicate the noise. The other things I am thinking of is the sound for breathing. We have a way of indicating the breathe in and breathe out, but we don't indicate the sound of the voice. In any way, you can specify on the side of the staff things happening at the same time. You can always describe something interesting on a phrase to say. You can have a text for the mover to be done at the same time. And maybe you know the way of writing in a timeline that actors uses in order to double the movies. You can have the same way of writing this way from bottom to the top in order to have indication related to the time, but most of the time we don't write down the specific sound. It's a result, as I don't remember who say that. It's a result of the movement. So we write down the movement. The result, it's up to us to find the result.
Okay. Question from Laura N. How long does it take for an advanced notator for write, for example, 1 minute, or contemporary dance choreography using multiply levels in space, dynamics, etc.?
She's got the answer in her question because she realized that it will be in relationship with the complexity of the movement. It is if the movement that need to be right is simple and clear, it will be fast to notate. If the movement is complex, it will be most complex to analyze and discover what is important to be written. Sorry.
Okay. From Brennan, his question, is it possible to create a score for dancers and musicians together using Laban notation in tandem to standard musical notation?
I think there is a book dedicated to Laban with the orchestra, something like that. But as usual, you deal with the training. And if you want to use a tool with someone, you need to train people to that. So in my company, who are not familiar with kinetography, and I have others that are able to read. And I'm using it depending on the context. When I teach a workshop with children that don't know at all, but I want to use symbols, I don't bring it in the same way. So depending on the time you have, depending on how long you have time to share the knowledge and to share the tool, of course you can imagine a way of, you imagine always the application of how notation will serve your context.
I want to say
but it exists. There were different projects with composers, with musicians, and notators at the same time. But it will be too long to describe.
I want to say that there is a lot of amazing questions, but I will just limit it on the 2 more. And just to remind all of you that you can still send questions to Raphael email that we will post again at the end of this webinar. So there is one question from Belgrade student Tamara Lesar. Do you think that for some moments should be invented new signs? Some Laban notators do that very common. Do you support that, Raphael?
It has happened because the system itself, I put some indication at the same time, but it's not connected specifically to it. It's because at some moments people want to write down something, but you will have it after. I just leave. I want to put this. Yes. To answer the question, the system itself was published in 1928. I would say that most of the contribution of the evolution of the system were done by a few people. Albrecht Knust in Germany, Anne Hutchinson in England or in the United States, Valerie Preston-Delop in Brittany, Maria Sempal in Hungary, and every colleagues practice a lot in different contexts. And as a result, they find new ways of finding a new necessity. The difficulty in this was not to invent new rules, but new necessity to use the rules. For instance, at the beginning of the system, there weren't any signs for body parts, only for hands, elbows, shoulders, head, but not for chest and trunk, for instance. It was just upper body movement. So I should say that from the beginning until the 70s, there were not plenty, but regularly new signs proposed by the community. And there is an international congress called International Council of Kinetography Laban, created in 1959 after the death of Laban in 58, that is communicating together. And if someone wants to bring something new, like breathing in and out, it's not an old sign, but we need to invent signs that are logic and that are not bringing other world into a system. So each new sign, and maybe I told you about the 6th level of amplitude. In the 90s, I think, or maybe in the year 2000, Anne Hutchinson proposed 8th level for the amplitude, but it was the same logic. So we have an exception if you want to be very precise, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 8, 3, 4, etc. But so it does happen every 2 years. Sometimes a specialist bring a new proposition, and after a trial period, we decide if this proposal enter officially the system or not.
Thank you. And a question from Olga. What is the position about notating street styles, hip hop and breaking in particular, which have a unique vocabulary? Is it possible to create signs for notation?
It's not a question of creating signs, it's a question of being able to analyze the movement. Because maybe you have, keep in mind that it's not a system that is dedicated to a specific vocabulary. It's a system that is dedicated to analyze movement. What is moving? How many parts at the same time are moving? And in what space? So when you are able to analyze this, you will be able to write it down. And it's the same not only for hip hop, but for any kind of human movements, from the more global to the more complex. It's not a question of complexity, and it's not a question of style. It's really a question of being able to analyze the movements. So maybe to have the good eyes to see what is important to be written.
Thank you, Raphaël Cottin. In this moment, I would like to say thank you for all of you to participate for these 2 days webinar, especially for also our assistants, Tanya Gavrilovic from Teatroskop and Jelena Ilic from Belgrade Dance Institute, and Catherine Fodry from French Institute in Serbia. For the end, Raphaël, I'm giving you a few more minutes just to say about how we're gonna send the questions, about maybe when we find the special maybe books, and just to maybe continue and work on Laban notation.
Yes, thank you. So to end, as you can see in the slideshow, there is a lot of text and information that is not very easy to be written down right now, but you will have it on a specific file during the email you will receive after the so you will be able to find a bibliography, maybe, is it working? Yes, here you have a bibliography. After you have places dedicated to Laban notation or kinetography in different places where you can find material, where you can find information or documentation. I add also two documents to be viewed on video on the web about Kinetography Laban or about the International Council of Kinetography Laban. So everything could be found easily after the event. Of course, I would like to thank l'Institut français de Serbie et l'ambassade de France en Serbie et Catherine Fodry. Je voudrais remercier Tanya Gavrilovic de Teatroskop, Aleksandar Ilic de l'Institut za umetničku igru, Belgrade Dance Institute, et every one of you, because you are a lot of people coming from a lot of different places, and it's a great pleasure and honor to share with you something which could be new for every one of you. Thank you very much for your attention, and maybe to minimize this and to finish with us together.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.